Day 37, or 38. The rusted iron door suddenly let out a shrill squeak, and the dim yellow light bulb swayed overhead. I looked up to see my mother standing in the doorway, hunched over, holding a stainless steel dinner tray. "Celia, it's time to eat." Her voice, rough as sandpaper, carried the timidity I'd known all my life. I didn't move. An iron chain bound my left ankle to a metal ring bolted into the corner, just long enough to let me reach the door, but not the tray she held out. This cruel precision was Xavier's doing. The man who'd stopped me outside the art gallery 3 months earlier, raving about the fragility in my paintings, was probably sitting on his leather sofa upstairs, listening to classical music, watching our mother-daughter standoff through a surveillance camera. Mother inched forward half a step, and a few drops of corn chowder sloshed from the tray onto the grimy cement floor. She wore the camel cashmere sweater I'd given her last year, a dark stain on the cuff, blood or dirt, I couldn't tell. Staring at that stain, I suddenly remembered how meticulous she'd always been, how she'd even comb her hair neatly before running to the grocery store. "He didn't hurt you, did he?" I asked, my voice hoarse and unrecognizable. It was the first time I'd spoken voluntarily in over 30 days. She hung her head lower, the gray roots of her hair stark against the darkness. "Mr. Xavier, he just asked me to bring you food." She set the tray on the floor and slid it toward me. "Eat something. It's your favorite, roast potatoes." I didn't touch the tray. Xavier knew my every preference, just as he knew all my secrets, that I'd lived with my mother since my parents' divorce, that I was majoring in oil painting in college and dreamed of exhibiting at the Museum of Modern Art in New York, that I'd been bullied by classmates at 15, and that my mother had shouted herself hoarse defending me, her first ever argument with anyone. I'd told him all this in casual conversation at the gallery. Now, every word felt like a chain locking me in. "Why are you helping him?" I suddenly raised my voice, the chain scraping harshly against the floor. "He's keeping me here like an animal. You're my mother." Her shoulders trembled violently. She pulled a crumpled tissue from her pocket and dabbed at the corners of her eyes. "I have no choice, Celia. He's got something on Mark." Mark was my mother's second husband, a mild-mannered high school math teacher. I'd never liked him much, thinking he was too weak for someone like her. But now, this weak man had become Xavier's leverage over her. "What does he have on Mark?" I pressed. She shook her head, avoiding my gaze. "Don't ask. Just know I have to obey him. He said as long as I feed you well and keep you compliant, he won't hurt Mark, or you." "Compliant?" I laughed, a sound full of despair. "He's locked me in a cellar with no windows, no sunlight, nothing but you and this wall every day. Is this compliant? What does he want from me?" I thought back to the day I was abducted. After the gallery closed, I'd stayed late to organize my paintings. Xavier had appeared out of nowhere, a chloroform-soaked towel in his hand. I'd fought back fiercely, knocking over an easel and splattering paint all over him, but in the end, I'd blacked out. When I woke up, I was in this cellar, chained by the ankle, with Xavier sitting in front of me, looking at me with an almost fanatical gaze. "Celia, don't you understand? Your paintings have a beautiful despair, I crave it. I need to keep this beauty with me forever." Back then, I'd thought he was crazy. But now, looking at my mother's evasive eyes, I suddenly realized things might be more complicated than I'd imagined. In the days that followed, Mother brought me food punctually every day, wearing different clothes each time, all stained somehow, mud on the cuffs or scratches on the hems. She rarely spoke, just set down the tray, watched me take a few bites, then hurried away. I'd begged her for a phone, begged her to call the police secretly, but every time I mentioned it, she'd cut me off sharply, her eyes filled with terror. "Celia, don't be foolish. Xavier has cameras everywhere, he'll find out. So you're just going to let him keep me here?" I accused. Her lips moved, but she only sighed. Just wait a little longer. I'll find a way. I stopped relying on her. Instead, I studied the cellar, thick concrete walls, a solid iron door, a single vent in the corner of the ceiling, no bigger than the palm of my hand. The chain was too thick for me to break with my bare hands. Every day, Xavier would speak to me through the vent, asking if I'd come around, if I was ready to stay with him forever. I called him a madman every time, but he never got angry, just laughed and said, "It's okay. I can wait." On the 15th day, when Mother brought my food, she slipped a handful of small metal pieces into my hand, pull tabs from soda cans. "Hide these," she whispered, her voice urgent and fast. "Mark found where Xavier keeps his spare keys. He'll try to steal them tonight. At 3 a.m., I'll come down under the pretense of bringing food and unlock the door. Run east as fast as you can. There's an abandoned gas station, Mark will be waiting for you there." I clutched the cold metal tabs, my heart pounding wildly. "What about you?" "I'll hold Xavier off as long as I can." Her eyes were unusually determined, a resolve I'd never seen in her before. "Don't worry about me. Just escape, call the police. They'll save us both." I nodded fiercely, tucking the pull tabs under the mattress. That night, I barely slept, listening intently to every sound outside. There was no clock in the cellar, I could only guess the time by feel. Around 2 a.m., I heard faint voices arguing upstairs, Mother and Xavier. "What are you doing down here in the middle of the night?" Xavier's voice was irritable. "I'm worried about Celia. I thought she might be hungry, so I brought her some food." Mother's voice trembled, but she forced calm. "I told you, meals are at fixed times. Can't you understand that? She's my daughter. I just want to see her." The argument faded into the distance, Mother had lured him away. 10 minutes later, the iron door creaked open softly. Mother hurried toward me, a set of keys in her hand. "Hurry, we don't have much time." She knelt down, her hands shaking so much she could barely insert the key into the lock. I looked at the gray in her hair, the wrinkles around her eyes, and suddenly remembered, when I was little and had a fever in the middle of the night, she'd fed me medicine with the same trembling hands, her eyes filled with anxious love. "Don't panic, Mom." I covered her hand with mine. Her fingers were cold, but they steadied under my touch. Click. At last, the chain fell free. Mother pulled me to my feet, whispering frantically, "Go straight down the corridor, take the first staircase up. There are cameras in the living room, hug the walls to avoid them. The front door is a combination lock. The code is your birthday." My birthday? Xavier had used my birthday as the prison code? The madman. "Mom, come with me." I clung to her hand, refusing to let go. "I can't." She shook her head, pushing me gently but firmly toward the door. "I have to stay. If I leave, he'll realize you're gone and send someone after you immediately. Go. Now." I stared at her determined face, knowing arguing would only waste time. I threw my arms around her in a tight hug, then turned and ran toward the door. The corridor was pitch black, lit only by faint green emergency lights. I hugged the walls, moving carefully to avoid the cameras, following her instructions until I reached the living room. Sure enough, several cameras loomed in the corners. I held my breath, darting along the wall. The front door was just ahead. I typed in my birthday, beep, and the lock clicked open. The night air hit me, fresh and cold, moonlight illuminating the path ahead. I didn't look back. I ran east as fast as my legs could carry me, my heart thundering in my chest, stones digging into the soles of my feet, but I didn't dare stop. I knew Mother was probably facing Xavier's wrath at that very moment. I had to escape, had to call the police, had to save her. After running for half an hour, I saw it, the abandoned gas station. And there, just as Mother had promised, was Mark in his beat-up pickup truck. He threw open the door as soon as he saw me. "Get in. Quick." I scrambled into the truck, gasping for breath. "Hurry, call the police. Mom's still there." Mark started the engine, pulling out his phone as he drove. "Don't worry, the police are already on their way." He glanced at me, his expression complicated. "Celia, what Xavier has on you, it's about your past." "About me?" I froze. "When you were 15, the girl who bullied you, it wasn't just a schoolyard fight." Mark's voice was low and heavy. "She was Xavier's sister. She died unexpectedly not long after, and Xavier has always blamed you for her death. He's been watching you, researching you, waiting for years to get his revenge." I was stunned. I'd had no idea my bully was his sister, let alone that she'd died. After the bullying stopped, she transferred schools. I'd never seen her again. How could he blame me for her death? Why didn't he just kill me? I whispered, confused and horrified. "Because he's a monster." Mark's voice was gritted with anger. "He thought killing you would be too easy. He wanted you to suffer, to live in the same despair he claims his sister felt. Your mother and I only found out the truth recently, after he abducted you. He told us everything, threatening to kill you if we dared call the police. So that was it." I'd always thought Xavier was just a madman obsessed with my paintings, but there was so much more to his hatred. But her death, it really had nothing to do with me. In the distance, I heard the wail of police sirens, growing louder by the second. Mark pulled over to the side of the road. "They're here. Tell them everything, they'll save your mother." I nodded, throwing open the door. Several police officers approached, asking questions. I told them everything, the abduction, the cellar, Xavier's threats, and Mother still trapped in the villa. The police raced to Xavier's house. When we arrived, the villa was in chaos. Xavier was pinned to the floor by officers, while Mother sat on the sofa, her face bruised but her eyes calm as she looked at me. "Mom!" I ran to her, tears pouring down my face as I hugged her. "It's okay, Celia. It's over." She patted my back gently, her voice soft and reassuring. "Everything is finally over." As the police dragged Xavier away, he glared at me, his eyes filled with hatred and resentment, but in the end, he was just a screaming madman being hauled into a police car. Later, we learned the full truth. His sister had been a habitual bully, cruel to everyone around her. Her own twisted mindset, not any action of mine, had led her to take her own life. Xavier, unable to accept the reality of her cruelty, had chosen to blame the first person he could, the quiet girl she'd once tormented. Mother, having acted under duress, was never charged with a crime. Mark was unharmed too. We left that nightmare of a city and moved to a small town. Mother's health was never quite the same, but she was happy every day, tending to the flowers and plants in our yard, occasionally accompanying me to my studio to paint. I never painted dark, despairing scenes again. Instead, my canvases filled with sunlight, flowers, flying birds, all the beautiful things life had to offer. I knew those nightmare days were behind me, and the reason I'd emerged from the darkness was that Mother had lit a path to freedom with her courage and love. Those 30-odd days in the cellar were the darkest of my life, but they were also the days I truly understood my mother's love. It was a love that was quiet yet unshakable, timid yet brave, a love that gave me the courage and hope to keep going even in the deepest despair.